Hi, everyone, and welcome to today's episode. We have a very extra special episode on the books today. We are speaking with Ali Parrish, founder and director of the Teacher Transition Empire, the premier resource for educators ready to land their next job beyond the classroom. Ali has helped thousands of teachers make meaningful career moves to companies like McGraw-Hill, Epic Games, and Spotify. She's here to share her journey and insight on making the leap from teaching to thriving in new roles. And I've been a longtime follower since before I left the classroom. So it's extra special to be able to share this with you today. So tune in, turn it up, and as always, let's get ready to do this. Hi, everyone, and welcome back to my channel. My name is Leena Marie Saleh, the Edtech Guru. I want to thank you so much for spending time with me on this journey, for all the support that you give me, and for following along. Don't forget to hit the thumbs up button, subscribe, and let's get ready to do this. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the Teacher Transition Expert Series. Today, we have an extra special guest that I've fangirled over for a really long time, so it's really excited to have our guest on today. We are joined by Ali Parrish, who is the founder and director of Teacher Transition. Ali, how are you doing today?
So good. Thanks for having me on. I appreciate this.
Yeah, no problem. Really excited to have you. For listeners who might be meeting you maybe for the first time or maybe even probably have seen the work that you've done, but can you share a little bit about who you are and what led you to create Teacher Transition?
Yeah, absolutely. So I was originally a school teacher and I loved it. And then I was ready for something more. You know, I know a lot of people feel called to be a teacher. And the reality is, a lot of people feel called to go beyond the walls of their classroom and to do something next. So that was the case for me. And this was way before COVID, like years before a lot of people were transitioning from teaching. And so, yeah, I was in that space. I know a lot of teachers struggle in that space for quite a while sometimes, and they experience a lot of things like they feel stagnant, they feel stuck, unsure what to do next. A lot of things can change with your personal life and your mental well-being and social well-being as you try to solve all of this. Anyway, I definitely experienced that, and it felt like a canyon. Like here I am in my classroom and there's all these jobs out there in the world, but how do you bridge that gap over that canyon? So I definitely remember feeling that and experiencing that. And then I bridged that gap and worked in a variety of awesome roles at edtech companies, corporate companies, global nonprofits, universities, and then creating my own companies, even from literally day one of those roles. Teachers ask, like, how did you land this job? How can I land this job? Again, this is years before COVID. And my first next job was working for an edtech company whose resources I had used in my classroom. And that particular year, well, I used it in a 5th grade classroom and a 6th grade classroom. Anyway, it was an edtech resource for a huge edtech company. That particular year, my students were some of the lowest performing Title I school students in our whole school district. I implemented the edtech resource, did it in innovative ways because I love using innovative edtech in innovative ways. And we saw their scores in a matter of months go from some of the lowest performers to some of the top performers in the entire district, not just among Title I students. So anyway, my first next job was working for that edtech company. And I got to go to different schools throughout the state and different, district offices and things like that, and train the teachers on how to use it better. And it was that very first training that I was at, and I usually would start out a training of like, hey, I am here. We're going to learn how to use this before you walk out those doors. My job is to make your life as a teacher easier, so you can teach more effectively, more efficiently, more enjoyably, and lighten your load. And we're going to make that happen before you leave. Anyway, I love training teachers. I love it so much. And so it was at that training, you know how they will do like the little timeouts where everybody like goes and gets a drink or trail mix, whatever granola bars they're providing. Anyway, during one of the water breaks, a teacher approached me and in kind of whispered tones, because this was way more of a taboo topic back then. It was, hey, how did you land this job? How could I do I would love doing something like this. How can I land this job too, right? It was literally the first day of working in that role. And again, like these whispered tones. So that was the first one, but it just kept happening and kept happening. So I worked with that company for a very long time and in a variety of roles. Yes, training. Yes, creating online on demand training resources. Some work toward improving their product, and customer success or educational success specialist role, helping school districts be more effective with it. We helped them land one of the biggest contracts that companies ever landed. So every student in the entire state in grades 3 through 12 had an online account for this EdTech product. So massive contract. And then all the implementation to help everybody who then had, new teachers help it be implemented effectively. So a little bit with educational sales in that role too. So again, in all these roles, teachers like, how do you do this? Next roles, yes, I taught at the university level. And then I also worked at one of the largest instructional design agencies. So imagine a place that designs and creates learning materials for live instruction and for on-demand instruction. So we made resources for Deloitte. Sears wanted an interactive comic book that their sales floor people could click on and make decisions and branching scenarios. So super engaging stuff. Athena Health, anyway, so instructional design, I loved that because I'm passionate about making learning accessible to anyone, anywhere, anytime. And I could see that when I was teaching at the university level. I was like, I love this, but I don't love that it's only students that got accepted to the university, could make it here today, can afford this, speak my language, you know what I mean? So, and then I went on from there. I was offered a job at an education company, training educators throughout the US. And I was also offered a different job at a global nonprofit, creating on-demand content and live training materials and resources on content that I absolutely love, like church-based kind of content. And that resonated with my heart. It was really hard to choose out of those two roles, but I chose a global nonprofit, got to make and design and do project management over cool learning things. And then that was translated into over 36 languages and distributed globally, as well as some of the things of that agency. So just a lot of really wonderful opportunities. And then after that, I decided to do my own thing and start my own company. And that grew into a learning resource design and production agency where we served nonprofits and corporate companies and edtech companies, like Franklin Covey. They have their education department of Leader in Me, corporate companies like Avanti, DecisionWise, anyway, different nonprofits and more. And so that was wonderful. And then as teachers kept emailing and kept messaging and calling and texting and friends saying, hey, I have this friend and they're ready to not teach it. Just as all of this happened, I then opened up I shouldn't say opened up time on the side, but just as a passion project on the side, I was like, let's start helping with this. And it was so long before there was really hardly anyone in the space. I remember telling my husband, I was like, I'm going to save this URL. And I think the words I'm going to choose are teacher transition, just because transition sounds like, it's not saying quitting, because this isn't about quitting. I talk with teachers all the time. And I'm like, you should feel zero guilt about this. Mm-hmm. You are advancing. You are serving in new ways. You are developing yourself. You're moving forward on your path. These are things to be proud of, that you can do this. These are not things to feel guilty about. So, but yeah, the word transition was just not used in this space at all. And I even remember being like, should I do this under my maiden name so that people aren't thinking I'm trying to encourage teachers to do something different? I just want to serve the people that are in the hard shoes that I was in by myself, right? With no support out there under the sun. Yep. And so it was, I was like, in case there's going to be haters, it was totally a taboo topic, right? I just wanted to serve this group of teachers. I'd been there and I wanted to create what I wanted back then for myself. And so we also wanted a little bit of anonymity for my family, and again, if there were haters and they're like, oh, she's trying to tell teachers to quit. No, we are serving the most underserved demographic of educators that there is. It's those that feel called to go beyond the walls of their classroom, those that want to help in new ways, serve in new ways. Or maybe they're in a different category. It's like, I want to be more present for my family. That is something to be proud of. Own that 100%. Maybe you need to care for aging parents. Maybe you need to care for a brand spanking new baby, right? These are all things to fully own and fully be incredibly proud of. So yes, I created teachertransition.com, started a podcast, made an online course, and again, was doing all this as just a passion project. Then as more people and more people were accessing it and needing support, I could see, we need to be dedicating all of my resource, personal time and attention and whatnot. So anyway, wrapped up our podcast at that time to create more transformative reason. I felt like this podcast, the one that our teacher transition podcast, very informative, and that's good. But I could see the difference of the people in our courses. And I was like, informative versus transformative. And
Mm-hmm.
as a teacher, I mean, I'm kind of a course snob, and I'm proud. I'm totally okay with that. Like, and because we've been teachers, we know what effective learning looks like. We know what boring learning and training looks like. And we know what engaged learning looks like. And so I don't want just a course with on-screen text. I don't want a course with just videos of somebody like a talking head speaking to me. Like, and having made courses for global nonprofits and for corporate companies, I have high expectations. I want training that's hands-on, scenario-based, and effective. I want training tools. I want templates. I want effectiveness. I want results. And so we've poured ourselves into creating our teacher transition membership, creating our teacher transition courses. All of our courses have university approved graduate level credit in them. And so if someone wants to use this anyway, and for some teachers, they're like, maybe I want to stay in the classroom, but I want to take these courses and learn what I can learn, gain some skills so that if I want this in the future, I can do this. And hey, it helps me move over on the pay scale because I just earned university graduate level credits. Anyway, but yeah, the infancy of where it started was all of that with a passion project. And so, yeah.
I've heard you say a lot of things, but I think the heart of everything is that you've played a variety of roles throughout your career, and you've transitioned a few different times into different types of roles, whether that's in the same organization, moving to nonprofit, to corporate, to even higher ed. I think that gives you all of that background that probably helps contribute or has contributed a lot to the success of teacher transition and being able to be able to lead it in the way that helps, because you've done a lot of adult learning, but in different settings. So you can bring all of that to the work that you're doing. And I think the other thing is, you really did start I don't want to say a revolution for this, but it was very taboo at at the beginning. When I was doing my transition, there weren't any resources either, and I just kept looking, hoping to find something. I actually found a PDF just in some Reddit group from some teacher who had transferable skill sets for former educators, and I used that to help craft my resume, which helped. But there weren't anything, and people would whisper to me. And I remember, I mentioned this all the time, but the very first conference I did out of the classroom, people were still kind of shunning me and being I can't believe you left, and I felt when I started creating content at first, I always used to put this caveat in the bottom, I am not trying to encourage teachers to leave the classroom. I'm just, because I would get sometimes I would get not so kind messages from people being you're really encouraging people to leave the classroom. And it's that's not what I'm doing. I'm just encouraging a space for people who want to do more, who want to achieve more, and it's okay and it should be celebrated. And I think your message of celebrating that and owning that is special, because I think oftentimes you feel a bit of shame as an educator leaving the classroom. And, the fact that people are whispering to you and being how did you do this, means that there's a lot of shame attached to it. Even now, I think even when teachers now still find me after training, at first it started one or two, and now it's 10, 20, 30 people stopping you, asking you how you get these jobs. So it's still an in-demand need. It's smart that you, kind of coined, you are the originator of the teacher transition, coined term. So it's kind of, I don't know, it's kind of great to hear your story and be able to share that, and that it's all inspired by, a joyful message rather than just this, I think sometimes teachers also feel this sense of shame, and guilt. And there's it's kind of a mourning cycle when teachers actually do decide to leave. They do really go through all the stages of mourning. But I think, respecting, that's what I always tell teachers too when I have coffee chats. I'm why are you putting down the things that you've done? You should be celebrating them. You just have to do it in a different way than what you thought you had to do it before. So I think that, you shared a little bit of that journey and the beginning of that process.
Yeah. And, we have on-demand resources for kind of the emotional support aspect of overcoming teacher guilt and reframing things and choosing a different thought. It's person A can be leaving the classroom and doing something else, and they feel like a rock star about it. And they are so proud of it. And they will just shout it from the rooftops. Person B doing the exact same thing, and their thought might be different, oh, I shouldn't be doing that. Oh, I'm not serving in the world. Oh, whatever. Whereas person A is thinking I am serving in new ways. I am helping more people, right? So anyway, we have on-demand training resources that help people choose a different thought and see a variety of different thoughts of like, oh, if I just like, and it's not just thought, like it's reality, right? So, I mean, one example, let's just take my first next job, right? So I was teaching elementary school level, right? And so let's say there were 30 students in my class. Okay, my next job, let's say at just one training, let's say there's 50 teachers and half of them are secondary ed and half of them are elementary ed. And so we're talking about thousands and thousands and thousands of students that it's going to be helping by helping them.
Yep.
There's absolutely zero, it makes no sense to feel guilt about this, right? You're helping in new ways. You're needed in new ways. You've got amazing skills, like beautiful God-given skills and skills that you've worked your backside off to develop. And the reality is, if someone feels like, oh, I'm serving in education, and if I serve in a different way, I'm not really serving, like the world needs your skills beyond the walls of a classroom.
Yeah.
Right. And so allow God to continue to lead and direct your path. You know, we call it a career path for a reason. And a path is to be moved forward on and upward on. It's not a career destination. And so if it feels like you're in a hamster wheel doing the same thing, if you feel stagnant, stuck, frustrated, disrespected, unsupported, disenchanted, disaligned, any of the negative things, like there's multiple ways to remedy that. And so we're here for all of it. So
yeah. And I think what you said was something that I think not only like reframing your thinking, but thinking about how you can have greater impact. And I think sometimes we think that impact is just, you know, oh, I want to go into being an implementation specialist because I want to have an impact on students and teachers. But you can also have impact in other ways. Like you were saying, you worked at Sears, the interactive like comic book
agency and you're one of your clients, right?
Okay, got it.
That was so an agency. If anyone hearing this is unfamiliar with agency models, an agency is one company, and that company, a ton of other companies will come to it. It was an instructional design agency. So big company names are coming to it and saying, can you do the instructional design work for us? So we don't have to like have an instructional design team do it. So Sears was like one of the clients. Yeah. One of many that we were serving.
But I think when you think about Sears, just like as itself, like, you know, you think about the clothing, you think about the tools like that, like, you know, other sort of thing. But like I don't think people think about, and I'm just using Sears as an example just because I think people know the name, but you don't often think about that those people need learning and those people need support, and just the way that you did it by, you know, creating that like interactive, like, you know, comic strip, like those types of things, like those are things that teachers bring to the table, innovative ways that people don't often think about learning. And adult learning can be very boring. I mean, just think about your college level classes, like they were so boring. Most people aren't taking naps in the back. So like, you know, thinking about how educators drive and create engagement and things like that, I think you have to think about yourself. I think sometimes people think you have to stifle your creativity, but it should be celebrated in whatever you do next. And I think that that's where educators really shine, is like that thoughtfulness and intentionality between everything that they do, because they're trying to get the highest engagement. So I really like that like aspect that you're sharing.
Yeah, absolutely. And to build off that more for anyone that's like, wait, what? Sears training, you know, or Deloitte, HP, whatever. So in the world of training, or in the world of L&D, learning and development, you're helping people learn. And so as teachers, we're familiar with those that are learning are the students, right? And their youth, their kids or whatever. And so when we take that into, we'll say the corporate space or nonprofit space or whatever, or even the ed tech space. So let's say it's an education company. No, let's help branch thoughts out a little bit broadly, because some teachers do limit themselves to applying at education companies. And I never want to like, you know, I want people to work in the companies where they're needed and where they want to work next. But I always encourage teachers to not limit their future based on their past, right? And so, but use the past as a springboard for the future. So let's say it's a corporate company. Who are they going to be teaching? Well, let's say a corporate company needs to teach their users or their customers how to use whatever the service or the product that the company provides. Also, a lot of learning and development work or instructional design work is for the employees at the company. So they can learn how to do their role, learn how to be effective, learn how to collaborate well with coworkers, learn how to use some, you know, software or tool or resource, or how to be good communicators, or, you know, if it's like a warehouse place, how to use a forklift, anything that has like OSHA compliance. And if people haven't heard that before, it's like all of the requirements for ensuring safety, or anyway, there's so many needs in so many different work settings, and teachers are experienced experts of how to make learning engaging, effective, enjoyable. So it's not about the curriculum that you've taught. It's about the skill set you have. And one of the bajillion, or one of the many skills you have is, here are our learning objectives. We need our new hires to know how, what do you want them to feel, to know, to be able to do, to become. Like, here are our learning objectives. Can you create a learning experience or learning materials to ensure that they've reached these learning objectives? And you're like, yeah, that's actually my bread and butter. I've been doing this for a while now, right? So anyway, it's just one of many roles, and there's so
I
much.
appreciate you breaking all of those down, because oftentimes when I talk to educators, they only think in one way, which is like the ed tech like background piece. But I think I've been trying to do these like Friday posts, just to like field trip Fridays, to like highlight different things in like different workspaces, because I think so often teachers only feel called to go to like a couple of roles in just one industry, which is ed tech, because they know education. And so I'm trying to do a better job of like opening those windows for people, because I think it's become, first of all, job hunting is more challenging now than it was, when I started this process way back when. But it's just like a lack of, as educators, we have so many skill sets, but the one thing we don't have is exposure to other industries and like understanding those things. Like, there is OSHA in a school, but like, what teachers would never know that, and nobody's ever talked to them about the OSHA standards and all the things you have to reach there. So I think that's the part that sometimes teachers see, and they automatically feel imposter syndrome, being like, I can't do that because I actually don't know ABC. But what you do have is a skill set that's widely used and widely accepted across any industry and any space. It's just about you translating that in the way that we were saying, like taking learning. What are they going to learn? What are they going to need to know? So I think that's like, I just hear a lot of educators just get really down on themselves and just really think like, I'm not going to, like, I've received so many messages this summer. It's kind of crazy. Like, a lot of people transitioning, but they're like, I have nothing to offer. It's like, that always feels like the first question of a teacher transitioning, and unless they're like, I'm really sure I know, I'm going to go. But most of the educators kind of sit in that like gray area of like, I don't think I have anything to bring to the table, but you do.
There you go. Yes.
And so I really like what you're saying about like, repositioning that thought process and breaking it down for people of what these actually mean, and expanding it, I think, out of ed tech, because I think when you put yourself in a box, it really limits yourself.
Absolutely. It does.
Yeah.
In so many ways. You mentioned teachers that are saying, I don't have anything to contribute, or I don't know what I can do, right? So our team at Teacher Transition, we have what we call the ABC process of a teacher transition. And so, or the teacher transition ABC process. A is for awareness. That's both internal and external. So you want to start with awareness of, what are your skills? What are your interests? What are your strengths? What are your passions? Like, what is it you love doing at work? Or maybe it's at home, right? Like that self-awareness is incredibly empowering. And then you also want awareness of the reality of the job market and the world, right? Like, what jobs are they? What's really happening, right? So like that awareness, and we have resources to help with that. One of the resources, it's in our membership, an online course called Identify Your Next Dream Job. So it builds awareness, self-awareness, and awareness out there. You can hear from all these teachers working at EdTech companies and corporate companies in these roles and be like, oh, I actually really like this university role, or, oh, I actually really like this corporate role, right? And so why don't we demystify it? We've got a free live event every month. It's an open call. We have one of our teacher transition graduates on. The next one is going to be Charles Maxwell. He is one of our graduates that was first working at Amplify, an ed tech company. Now he's working for Everway, and like he's a trainer, professional learning specialist. And so he goes on site, kind of like that first job I was mentioning that I had. So anyway, he's going to come. Some of our graduates, they'll share like their Google Calendar for the week and be like, this is what my job is. Here's what a regular day on the job does. Here's what I actually do all workday, right? Like, we want to take the mystery out of it, and we want to help with skill development, all of that. We want to boost confidence, clarify, help people see like, oh, I'd actually really hate that job, so I'm not going to do that. Oh, look at this one. I'd actually really love that job, right? And so anyway, we have those every month if it helps people build awareness. And for so many teachers that we get to work with, I love hearing them say like, I had no idea I could do all this stuff. Or that's seen as a skill. That's a value add. I thought just everyone had that and could do that and whatever. And so clarifying that. So that's step A, awareness. And then B is building skills. It's great if you have awareness of what job you want to do. Like, that's nice. That's great. That's super important and super empowering. Like you're saying, the job market right now is harder than it's been. And so let's say someone knows they want to do, we'll say curriculum development, because most people listening to this, I assume, are familiar with that role. So that's great that you want to do that. I have hired for all of these roles for years, right? I have people apply and it'll be like, here's my PhD in curriculum and instructional design. That's nice. Or a different applicant will say, here's my portfolio of what I can do. And I don't have a PhD, but I personally don't care, because people that are hiring, they don't care. They don't care what degree you have. They care what you can do, right? Now, there are some exceptions out there. Maybe it's a government role and they like technically absolutely have to have somebody that has a master's in something. But who did I hire? The person with a PhD or the person that I could click on her portfolio and see, oh, she's built a course in this software and that's the project that we have that starts in 3 weeks. And I need someone that could build e-learning or like make slide decks like this. And of course I'm going to hire her, right? So it's good that someone knows if they want a certain role, but it's better if you have the skills that are actually listed in that job description. And so that's where our skill development courses come into play. So we have one course called Become a Curriculum and Instructional Designer. And each of these courses are the ones they come with graduate level university credit. So there's Become a Curriculum and Instructional Designer. There's Become an Educational Success Specialist, or in other words, Customer Success Specialist or Customer Success Manager. There's so many different titles for it. Another course is Become a Trainer or a Professional Learning Specialist or Educational Consultant, whatever you want to call it. All of these courses have training, hands-on experiential, scenario-based learning, templates. So training, tools, templates, all of it. Resume templates, cover letter templates, LinkedIn templates, all of that. And then you're learning from like Charles Maxwell that I said is going to be our upcoming guest speaker, right? He's going to show you, here's what it's like to work at Amplify as a trainer. Here's what it's like to work at this other company. So you can, again, demystify it and actually see the jobs out there. But these courses, you're doing and experiencing what people do on the job. Boosts your know-how, your confidence, your ability to really communicate in your interview of what you're doing, how to do it, and to showcase, here's what I've actually built, or here's the process I would go through in this scenario as a customer success manager or as an educational success specialist or whatever. And so, or here's my instructional design portfolio. So it has all of that. It has 10 weeks of live mentor cohorts. So you're on live calls with our graduates who are mentors now for you because they're working in these roles at companies right now. I know some people, they'll maybe make like an online course and they're like, oh, I went from whatever to being a project manager, whatever role it is, but then they're no longer in that role. And maybe they're just making online courses like, an online course might be good. Online courses with tools, templates, trainings, all that is going to be better, but what's best, right? It's a course where you are learning. Anyway, you have the live learning experiences. You have, weekly open office hour calls. You've got an online community with 24/7 access. And it's not the blind leading the blind in these communities, right? You're receiving feedback from real mentors that really work in the field. And then it's also going to be a course and a resource that helps with job placement, that helps with introductions to companies, or that helps you with getting your next first job. So, and that's almost jumping ahead because so we've talked about some of the courses. We also have another course called Become a Freelancer for those that are like, maybe I want to keep teaching, but do something on the side, and I'll do some freelancing and build up my experience and then I'll go full-time later. Or maybe someone's retiring and they just want to do freelancing, whatever. Or maybe they want to freelance full-time. So many right paths. But so yeah, those are our current forming courses, all with university credit that can help people move over on their pay scale as well. And then, so A, awareness, B, build your skills, and C is connect with the companies. And that's where it's like, all right, I'm applying. I'm prepared to interview effectively. I know the top questions that are going to be asked. I know how to negotiate my salary. I know what I should be paid in this role. I'm comfortable. I've heard and seen and experienced and role played in dialogue of these conversations. I've got a killer resume. All of it. You're totally ready. And you don't have to wait. Like, please don't wait for perfect to do all of this. We can talk more about that. But yeah, C is you're connecting with the companies and you don't have to do that alone. So if someone knows a company they want to work for a role they want to work in. Again, we've got literally hundreds of resources to help connect them to actual companies, and companies will reach out to us. I think I may have mentioned this, a little bit before we started recording. Week before last, the company's reaching out and they're like, hey, we have 300 online courses that we need to transfer from this learning management system into Canvas. And I'm like, well, I just happen to know a lot of people that know how to use Canvas, right? And they're rock stars at it. And so helping teachers have opportunities for their next transition job, their next job, and build their resume and build their experience. So end to end. And we love, companies will also reach out and be like one company under Lego. It was one of my former coworkers, for example. He reached out. He's like, hey, Ali, I need to hire a former teacher who's been in the classroom at least in the last 2 years. And we need them to be able to see things from a teacher lens. We have this learning management system and these products. I need them to see it from the lens of a teacher and tell our development team and our other team and leaders, how can we improve this? What would make this a better user experience, right? The UX design, the flow, the layout, everything about this. What's going to make it better for a teacher or a trainer or anyone that experiences this? This role is going to start at 70 or 75,000 a year, unlimited paid time off, fully remote, and amazing potential to grow in the role. And so it's, if they're reaching out, if Savvis Learning Company, if other companies are, when they reach out needing hires, the first people we go to are our course grads and those that are in our membership. And we love being able to help on that side of the spectrum too. So just end to end. If someone's like, I'm doing guided reading here at my kidney bean table at the back of my classroom with third graders, and I kind of feel this itch and I'm not sure what to do, but I think I should act on this before I feel stagnant for a super long amount of time. Like, are there things I can do? Like, if they're at that end of the spectrum, or if they're like, I really would like to work at Canvas. Can I talk with someone one-on-one who has worked there? We have those one-on-one mentoring and coaching call support resources too, and group coaching. And one of our team's mantras is everything is improvable. And we're evolving this all the time. And as we learn more, my mom would say, when you know better, you do better. And as any opportunity where we're seeing we can do this better, we're like, okay, let's improve that. Let's refine that and be able to serve people as best as we can. So it's always evolving and improving. But end to end, that's.
I think what you've mentioned is, a lot of times in the teacher transition process, you don't know where to start. You don't have a network. You feel kind of alone. So this is providing that opportunity for you to ramp up your skills, figure out how to get rid of the guilt and all the other things, but also providing you a network that's like a safety net without you having to like forcefully go out and network. It's providing you with like instant ability to network and see like a day-to-day job. Like when I had Ben on, I wanted him to really break down what he was doing in his day-to-day job, because I think so often as educators, they are really like, I want to do this role. And then they hear what their role is. Even sometimes I'll talk to people about my own role at Canva and they'll be like, yeah, I don't think I really like that. And I'm like, yeah, that's totally fine. That's like what this purpose is for you to like network and like be able to understand where you're going. Cause I think oftentimes an educator's like, I just want to go straight to that without like ever understanding what a day-to-day looks like, what you're actually going to do, because there's like 1,000 role titles for things that are the same type of work. So definitely. I think it's really, so you're providing that like opportunity for them to have all of those things and to kind of fit different niches, I think, as well.
Yeah. And Ben's role is instructional designer, right?
Yeah, he's an instructional designer. Yeah, he's in the higher ed space.
Yeah.
Doing that right now. Yeah.
So one, unique thing about that is, I guess I would encourage people to just like, build awareness, but also be aware it's different at every company. And sometimes two people in the same job at the same company have very different roles. And so, but their title might be the same. So, Exactly. If you ask 100 instructional designers what they do, you could get 100 different responses. While working with Franklin Covey and with their Leader in Me program, the first thing was, and they reached out to me, right? I had done some collaborating with them earlier, but then they reached out and they're like, hey, we need to improve our training for teachers and for new schools that want to use our products. Can you help us do that for like global training for our resource? So first thing was they fly me out to New York and they have me observe the current training. And it's like, okay, what should we do? And then we, started kind of from the ground up and adjusting and improving things. That might be at one company. Another company might be making slide deck presentations. Another one, it might be like designing e-learning resources. Another one, it might be gathering feedback from users. And like, there's so many things. The hardest part is just getting your foot in the door for the first step. And then once you're in, there's so many opportunities. And that's, part of why we're very passionate about helping people with that first next step. I also think, it's hard when you're like, what do I need? Like you said, like a lot of people initially don't know what they need. It's like, should I like have someone rewrite my resume? Or should I don't know exactly what I want to do next. Or should I start applying for jobs? So it's easy to feel lost. And that's why we wanted to make, a place where people can come to where it's all under one roof and they don't have to search. And anyway, because that can be exhausting as well.
Yeah, that can be very exhausting. Before we move on to my next bit of questions, I did want to mention something that you mentioned. And that was I think oftentimes educators are like, I need to go back to get a master's degree to go into this certain segment. And you did mention that's only really true for specific segments of work, specific to government, where they have specific rules that they have to follow for ABC. But it's about what you can show and how you can show what you know. And you could do that for any role. I think oftentimes teachers think about it as only being for instructional design and being able to show that piece, but you can also do it for training. So you can also just, figure that out. You can also do it for customer success. You can also show how you would successfully roll out a program in your school district because you've done it 100 times. And just go step by step on how you've actually planned that. And I can tell you, as a person who's also hired former educators, that is what we're looking at. We're looking to see what you know, not what it looks like on paper, because people look brilliant. And I think I was talking to Jocelyn, which isn't she Gauze? Isn't she one of the mentors on in your cohort, or she used to be?
She has shared what I would love to have her do more mentoring. And maybe I'll be reaching out to her about that. But she has shared, here's what it's like to work at this company. Anyway, so she has shared all of that. Yeah.
Yeah. I just peeked at your website. I was looking and her photo was there. But anyway, so we were talking about how teachers look, not teachers, but just sometimes people look really, really great on paper. And it's amazing that they look great on paper, but it's not the application of knowledge. I think everything that we do in this world is about an application of knowledge, no matter where you work, what you do, what industry you're in. People want to know that if they're going to hire you, they're making an investment in you, that you have the skills that they need to be able to start working literally tomorrow, just like you would in your classroom. You'll obviously have very scaffolded training, way more than you would ever have as an educator. But we really want to make sure that you actually do know what you know and you'll have success in the role, because we don't want to bring people on that aren't going to have success in a role. And so the more that you can show, even if it's a customer success job, even if it's a sales role, especially in the world of technology, you've done so much integration of technology. Every teacher has at this point. That being able to speak to that successfully and just being really proud of that work and be able to narrate a situation, because I heard you saying role play, being able to narrate a situation and how you've actually done something to success or maybe failure, and you figured out how to kind of move forward past that. It's so important. And you've hired teachers in the role and I've hired teachers in the role. If somebody can't speak to that, they could be so beautiful. They could be from Harvard and have the best degree of all the degrees and all the awards. But if I can't actually speak to that, I'm going to take somebody who can show that doesn't have as much knowledge and background, but they build these beautiful training modules. They're going to come and work with us because they're able to show what they know and know how to do it well.
100%. Yeah. Yeah. Your degree shows that you got accepted. You could pay the tuition. Your butt was in a seat for when it needed to be in a seat, and you turned in homework and passed assessments. Mm-hmm. But I don't care about that, right? And a lot of companies are becoming way more effective and sophisticated in how they interview. Someone might interview effectively, but it doesn't mean on Tuesday when they're put in the role that they're going to be able to hit the ground running, right? And some companies, I love hearing you say that Canva trains really effectively. Some companies don't, right? And maybe I shouldn't share specific company names, but I will say I am closely connected with people at Pearson and people at McGraw-Hill and people who've worked at both places. And I know which of those two companies trains and onboards their people way more effectively than the other. And so when I am interviewing people, and again, a lot of companies are becoming more sophisticated at this. Sometimes we're making it more kind of scenario based. What would you do in this instance? Because I don't care how well you interview. I care how well you can do that job on Tuesday, right? And Wednesday and Thursday. And so that is why I am very intentional and expect and require that all of our courses have scenario based, hands on. You are experiencing what you do on the job so that you see oh, this is as a school district, is implementing new curriculum or new resources as they're in curriculum adoption process, like all of this. Here's what it's like for them. Here are the questions and the templates that we use where they outline what are like the client needs, the school district needs, what are the scenarios going on? How am I monitoring this? How am I adjusting this? What data are we having to see? You can even use things like that as a portfolio piece. Usually we think portfolio for instructional design, but guess what? You also have resources that you can use that showcase and really impress and knock the socks off of people. Customer success roles in their interviews, sometimes they're having you do kind of a demo project or a scenario-based stuff or a presentation. And we have all the training templates, tools, all of that for you to experience and try on hands-on. So, but yeah, to your point and everything that you're saying, a lot of teachers assume. I had a teacher say to me just last week, she's like, I did this master's program, but nothing's happening. I've been applying for jobs, but I did this master's program. It's like, it is great for learning. If your goal is to have a degree, then you will accomplish your goal by doing that. If your goal is to have a different job, then you can accomplish that goal by doing other things. But it's also super fascinating to hear from teachers how much they invest financially in a degree that they can put on their wall, and how much, it's like some of them are paying like over $50,000, well over $50,000. Some are paying over $100,000 for a degree. And if that is your goal, go get them, girl. Go get them, guy. Whatever. Totally. But what's your goal? And if your goal is opening up other work opportunities, other ways to serve, then there are other avenues for that as well.
Exactly. And I think that's so great. I wanted to ask you, so you've seen teachers land roles from Scholastic to Epic Games, even Spotify, all those types of places. But what are some of the most popular or exciting next jobs for teachers right now?
Do you mean role or company?
Could be both.
A lot of teachers...
Probably role, I would say.
Okay. Because I will say a lot of companies are like, I want to work at, and they'll name like maybe 1 of 10 edtech companies. And I would say beware of that, right?
Yeah.
A lot of people are like, IXL, man. Because
I know.
look, they've got this STEM curriculum. Like they'll have
even though they're always hiring.
Always hiring. Yeah. And it's, I'm trying to be wise about what I say about, but they're always hiring. And then their job titles are going to be very niched. And then people will be like, but I've taught that. But I've done that. So that is me. And so it's good to identify that with it and be like, okay, that relates to me. And that's good. But again, don't limit your future because of your past, and still apply for those roles, go for those roles, but don't limit yourself. Also, like the quantity of people applying to those roles changes the game versus if you're applying at a smaller company that fewer people know of, or even like the careers page that they even check it, then you're going to stand out differently. And a lot of people are having luck doing things that are more local. And so if it's connecting with a company that's based in your area, it might still be a remote role, but they want someone that's in their region. And anyway, so your question is
what are some of the most exciting, like next jobs? Roles for teachers.
Yeah. So if we go back to kind of the ABC process and awareness, if a teacher is really wanting to work in education, basically we have what we call teacher transition tracks, and those correlate with our main courses. And you just want to be aware of like, what are the jobs out there that correlate with my skills that companies are hiring for? And maybe it won't be your job in 10 years or 3 years or 2 years, but what are the jobs that are going to be I don't want to say easiest next step, but the most natural segue and entryway into that? And so a lot of people hear, curriculum and instructional design. The reality is there are so many different titles that fall under that category as well. Learning architect, learning experience designer, LMS administrator is underneath this learning and development or L&D umbrella as well. There are so many, but that one, basically, let's take it back to the awareness, the self-awareness of what do you love, right? If you love creating learning materials, learning resources, learning experiences, and if you're a rock star at it, that's going to be curriculum and instructional design, or the myriad of other job titles related with it. If you love being the teacher, right? Stand and deliver, facilitate learning, up in front or guide on the side, then that's going to be trainer. Don't limit yourself to training at a education company. Education companies sometimes call, if you go on to LinkedIn and type in trainer, it's going to be or let's say you're on Indeed, it's going to bring up trainer at the gym. right? And so we want you to be able to see job listings that are trainer or professional learning specialist, educational consultant, and all of that. Right now, at the time of this recording, we on our teacher transition job board, which is inside of the teacher transition membership, there are over 12,000 jobs listed currently. People can sign up for, weekly notifications with what they want and whatnot. Yeah, so that would be another. So curriculum and instructional design, if you love creating learning materials and resources, if you love the instruction, like delivering the instruction, trainer, if you love helping others be successful, helping a school be successful, maybe you love ed tech, when it's implemented effectively, and you can support that relationship to help them implement it effectively and to see their data of like, wow, look at all the success you're having with this. And then the next year rolls around and the school district's like, we are paying for this another year, right? We're renewing our account, our subscription. And so you help them be successful with that. So those are some of the next dream jobs, so to speak, for teachers. And again, it's just getting in. And once you're in, so many more opportunities, so many other job titles under these. Again, educational consultant falling under trainer, and so many other job titles. And there's also, in our freelancing course, we show a variety of other flexible things as well. But those are the main teacher transition tracks, building naturally on their skills, not limiting them to it. Sometimes teachers would be like, I took this course from teacher transition, and halfway through I could see like, I'm good at this, but it's clarified to me more. I actually am more passionate about this other area, like educational success specialists. And so they're like, and then I dove into that. I'm thinking of Raven Wilson. She first signed up for the curriculum and instructional design course. And she's like, I'm good at this, but it's not my jam. And she's like, I can tell I'm loving customer success. And she landed her first job at Formative. And then she landed her next job at Elevation, ELL, Elevation. And she's loving it there and has had awesome growth opportunities there as well. So yeah, just lots of different avenues. But again, they're not like dead end roles, right? It just is the opening of so much more.
Yeah. I've heard you say a couple of things, I think, throughout this like interview process is that they're pathways. I think sometimes as educators, not every educator, but I would say a high likelihood of most of them go into it and they're like, this is what you'll do forever. Like you'll just kind of stay in like one singular type of role. Maybe you'll transition throughout the school district, but you'll always be an educator in the educator school system. And so when I speak with a lot of teachers who are making the transition, they're often like, this next role, I want it to be my last role. That's it. But I would say on average, many of us, yourself included, have many different types of transitions when they transition. When I first transitioned out of the classroom, I was supposed to be 30% sales and 70% professional development. Very weird split of a role. Then it moved from 50-50, and then it went 70-30, and then it went 100% in like one direction. So I think that, and then now I basically create all the training resources for like educators on the side and train them and that sort of thing. But your transition can look different, right? Like I moved to 100% sales and now I'm back to doing something else that was like really not even in part of the original part of like my role profile. So I've transitioned a few times. And I think as an educator, you have to be okay with understanding that you're probably going to go into a role and maybe you've really been really decisive and you really like, oh, customer success and I want to land here forever. You're not probably going to land there forever. You just probably won't. You're going to come in, you're going to stretch your wings, you're going to learn a lot of skills. You're going to work with a lot of teams. Even if it's a small company, you work with many different people within that organization, hopefully, in which you'll get exposure to, or maybe it's your clientele that you're working with, that sort of thing. You're going to get exposure to a lot of different like role profiles. I would say most people end up transitioning in some capacity into maybe something else once they like kind of get their feet wet. Not everyone, but I would say a lot of people do see things like maybe they want to move into product. Maybe they want to move into, I don't know, marketing. There's all kinds of like different roles. So I'd just say like, be flexible and be graceful with yourself as you're making this transition and think to yourself like, yes, this is really my, as you say, your next first job. You've said a few different times that, be flexible to know that this probably won't be your landing spot. And also just like best practice for people in like once they've transitioned post-classroom is we don't get merit-based raises, and you go to a school and you don't just get raises that way either. Like just because you've been in a role for 3 years, you don't just like jump over a step. You get, I guess more merit-based, sort of like how it goes. But you're transitioning into, and to get more money, sometimes you do have to leave a company or you have to move to a new role. And most people transition to new companies between like that 3 to 5 year mark, sometimes a little bit sooner. So just know that and have that like space for yourself to feel that. But like just focus on your next first job and
Yes.
don't think it's going to be your next forever job, because I think that's the tricky part.
Yep, absolutely. I think a lot of that thought process of, I want this to be like my next and like my last job. I think part of that comes from a desire for stability
Mm-hmm.
and security and
Mm-hmm.
happiness of like, I want to love it. And I want to love it so much that I'm never going to be in this uncomfortable situation again that I'm in right now. And part of that discomfort that you're in right now is because you haven't moved forward. And
Mm-hmm.
so what we really see over time is it is not just landing your dream job. It is that next first job or your transition job. Give yourself the freedom for flexibility. Stop expecting so much out of yourself. Stop waiting to know all the answers. Don't expect yourself to be perfect. Our team calls it perfectionistic Patty. Perfectionistic Patty doesn't land a job because she never applies. And all of those bullet points on the job listing, she's like, I don't meet all of these, so I'm not applying. Get over it. Harvard Business
Yep.
Review has clear data about like women disqualify themselves when they don't meet all those bullet points. Men don't do that even half as frequently as half as much as women do. So get over the perfectionist side. All of us know what it's like to be plan A, kind of like type A people, right? Of like, I'm going to have a plan for my life. It's going to be
Yep.
like this kind of scope and sequence. I have a lesson plan. I have a life plan. This was my life plan.
Mm-hmm.
What's my plan now? I don't know what I'm doing with my life, right? And so I think that desire for like, it's going to be my next job and it's going to be my last job because I'm going to love it. So yeah, a desire for security, desire for happiness. But what we really see is over time, we develop the vision and the maturity and just like the wisdom of, it's not about a dream job. It's really about a dream path.
Mm-hmm.
And that a healthy path, just like water, stagnant water is not healthy water. You want to be moving forward. You want to feel like you're moving upward. You're going to be in a different role. There are things you're going to love about it and other things that you're like, these things are like, aren't my favorites, but I'm going to gear this more this direction. And then your team is going to see, oh my word, she delivers so much value in this area and that area. And your company's going to have certain needs evolve and different tech things come out and they're going to be like, we really need you. And we've seen you're a rock star at this. Could you do some of this for us? And you'll be like, awesome, bring it on. That's great. And different opportunities are going to come your way. And so again, it's going to be a dream path. Also, you mentioned just about having a bunch of different jobs. It reminded me when I was working at that really big instructional design agency, they would provide us with lunch on like Tuesdays. And so everybody was together having lunch and they were introducing new teammates. And this guy had just been hired. There were multiple hires, but this one guy, they introduced him. He was probably in his upper 20s, maybe his young 30s. And they introduced him, and when they introduced people, they mentioned where you previously worked, and they listed him off like, I don't know, 10 different companies. He'd worked at a bunch of different companies, right? And I was like, everyone in hearing that is like, whoa, he's worked there and there and there and amazing, right? Because they see it as all this value you're bringing. People don't see it as, holy cow, like he quit a lot of jobs, right? And so as you move, it's seen as a value add. You've seen how different organizations work, how they operate, strengths, weaknesses. You can contribute and add value in all the experience you bring to the table. It's a great thing.
Before we wrap up, and I agree, because I think in education, sometimes when you're interviewing people and they've moved around a lot, you're like, why have they moved around so much? It's like a red flag. But it's not that way on the other side. Everyone's like, wow, that's so cool. Look at all this experience.
Yeah.
So I think it's just like a mindset shift. And I think like as educators, I think we are in a system that is for like forever, like we only know that certain pathway, like, a scope and sequence, like we're going to go do this A, B, and C. And your life is like that for the most part when you're in education. But like once you leave, also you get more confidence and you get more sure. And so that security comes as you leave the classroom. So just just know it's there. So like you won't be so stressed out about like, oh, my forever job. Like you'll just leave and you're like, you're going to feel like a breath of fresh air for the most part. Like when you leave, there's always going to be a challenge, but just some things to think about. If a teacher who's listening is so nervous about the change, what's one thing that you wish that they knew?
I wish that they would give themselves the freedom to explore, the freedom to brainstorm, the freedom to look around. It's not about disloyalty, right? Who are you being loyal to, right? Is it like, if you feel a call inside of yourself to do something different, then are you being more loyal to some organization, like an employer? Or are you being more loyal to that voice inside of you, or like a call from higher power? Like if God's calling you to do something else, like who are you going to be loyal to, right? Or if you're like, this is just for my own well-being, that is totally great too. So I wish they would give themselves the freedom. And also, you don't have to wait. I refer to it as a runway, like an airplane is going to take off, right? And you want to give yourself a time and a path. Maybe it's 1 year, maybe it's 2 years. Have we had people join a course and they land their job the next week? Yes. Or that week? Yes. But usually it's, you want to give yourself a runway, time to explore, plan, prepare, and launch and serve. And so, so you don't have to feel like, oh, if I'm accessing like a resource or exploring this, I'm being disloyal. You're not. You should be pursuing all the things. And you can see it as, I'm adding more tools to my toolkit to be able to serve others. I'm putting more quivers, right? Or more arrows in my quiver to be able to serve. And so we've also, had teachers, like before COVID, some of our teachers were learning curriculum and instructional design. And then COVID hit and they're like, we cannot find substitutes. No, it was that they had to train so many substitutes. They're like, we need on-demand training. And my district is now looking to me because I've now learned how to make on-demand training resources. And so, maybe you're going to be serving in your school district, or maybe you're going to be serving it in your local food bank, helping create training resources for all the volunteers that are coming. I want them to know that they're needed. Their skills and their gifts are needed in the world, not just in a brick and mortar building. They're needed in the world of work beyond a classroom. So yeah, if you feel called for whatever reason, I want them to feel like they have the resources, the information, and it's okay to explore and be like, actually, I'm going to stay in the classroom. That's wonderful. Own that. No one's goal here is to have anyone change a job. It's just to help people to empower them to do what they feel called to do. So.
I love that. Before we wrap up this episode, and you can tell everyone where to find everything, do you have one hot take or a few hot takes on for job hunters?
Yes. Along with not applying to over-applied to organizations, you don't have to do this alone. You're going to do it more enjoyably, efficiently, and effectively by doing this with others. So let's say someone is scanning the room, right? And they're like, what resources should I use for this? I want you to look for and develop a lens that looks for good, better, best. Like, don't just go with something that has reviews, especially if a review's like, this course was good, or like, I enjoyed this, or this. You want to see results. You want to see like the proof's in the pudding, right? It's like, where do your grads work? And if they're not saying like, these are the jobs our people actually land, these are the companies that we actually connect you to, right? Then, you and I have both seen so many things start at the grassroots level. And it's like, hey, I review people's resumes. And that is awesome. I personally believe like almost everyone, if not everyone in the space, is well-intentioned and sincere desires to help. And they love helping. And really, it's not like competition. Aren't we all on the same team if our goal is really helping people toward this cause, right? So if someone's looking around and they're like, what resource would I use? Are there courses out there that cost like $8,000? Yes, all of them are going to have different resources in them. So I would say look for something that shows results. Where are their grads landing opportunities? Some of our grads have been like, I paid for this massively expensive course before I found your course, and your course is more organized, more clear, more effective. It has a slide mentor anyway, but yeah, look for results. Begin with the end in mind. And if that is landing a job at a company like those, you want to see that. Look for something that has things that help you identify what you want, and then things that help you build the skills. Most resources out there don't have that. It's good if you know what job you want to do, but we need you to have those skills so that again, on Tuesday, you can be contributing on the team. And then and look for organizations that are going to help connect you with companies, help you see this is what the opportunities are actually like here. This is what it's like to work here, and that have the ability to help connect you there. So, or opportunities for you to be contributing in some work resources. So,
yeah, I think that's great. A lot of people will come to me and they'll be like, I got taken advantage of. I've gotten this, I've gotten that. So I think it's just really important to make sure that you're vetting your resources, because it's easy to fall in. And I would also say, I know this is going to be crazy and it's not meant to hurt anyone's feelings, because I do think everyone is well intentioned. But please make sure that the coach or something that you're working with has actually transitioned, because I think that's also like a really important part of the
you're saying
aspect. It can be
from
the classroom. Yeah. Like if you're like, they really need to be on the other side and have that exposure. I think a lot of people are very well intentioned in the things that they're doing, and they notice that it's a need and they want to help. But if they've not actually ever transitioned, they don't really actually have the skill set to actually help you do that. So just be really careful and just really mindful. And I think Ali's course and the people that I brought on all of these episodes are really, really helpful and really well intentioned with the work that they're doing. So just think about that. And Ali's right. Make sure you know where they've landed. They have reviews, like all of those other types of things.
Yeah. Also, that having been a teacher, because our team is a team of former teachers, right?
Yeah.
And there's so many different nuances related to it, and it's really not just like how to overcome the emotional guilt part that we talked about earlier, but they get it. And like, we've been where you are, we've gotten to where you want to be. We know how to bridge the gap, and we build the bridge for you. And so, I think another important piece of advice that is coming to mind is get out of brainstorm mode, get out of your head, and, stop scrolling, just turn off some of the apps, and get into, like, log into your course, get into the skill development, start applying. It's not the brainstormers that land the jobs. It's not those perfectionistic Patties. It's the jump on it Julies and the make it happen Megans, because they're taking action. It's the action takers that are the game changers. Like, they are the ones. Perfectionist Patty is never applying, is researching every option under the sun, or, all of this. And we get that. Again, we're planners, but do less of, the searching, the listening, do more of the action taking. And that's going to be building specific skills that are listed on the job description, applying to the roles, and doing the things that are effective applying. So yeah, do more of what moves needles and less of the brainstorm. Get out of your head and start taking action.
And that's really important. Yeah. Perfectionist Patty. I like that. So if somebody wanted to connect with you or find more about teacher transition, obviously you mentioned purchasing the URL at the very beginning of the episode, but and they wanted to get started with your resources, where would you point them to?
One of the resources I would recommend starting with is going to be found at teachertransition.com/quiz, because it's going to give you, a quiz that is going to help you see what you'd actually enjoy doing next, right? Kind of that A part, the awareness part. And then from there, it will guide you through resources and how you can get more help. If people want to connect with me personally, I can share my link on LinkedIn. It's Ali Parrish, ALI and PARRISH. And but really on LinkedIn, following our, I would say, our company. I love hopping on live calls with all of the people, and I have a group coaching call really frequently in our membership if people want that. Also, can I just say, I drove through Chick-fil-A yesterday just with my kids, right? And it costs more. It costs more to just take me and my kids to Chick-fil-A than it costs for our membership. And my kids were hungry after, and my kids are 2, 4, and 7. It's not like they're like teenagers that are eating a lot, right? So we've really done our best to make it super affordable and whatnot. But yeah, if people want to hop on a live call with me or with our other coaches who like have worked at Canvas and Structure and Lucid for Education and Koali and corporate companies too, or Pearson and McGraw-Hill and so many, and again, corporate companies as well, like, come hop on a call with us. We're going to be face to face. Ask whatever question. You want me to look at your resume? Awesome. You want to bring a link to a job description that you're like trying to understand what in the world they're even talking about? Let's do it. You want me to connect you to one of our grads who works at the company where you want to work? Awesome. We want to demystify all of this. We want to remove any guilt. We want to build bridges, build skills, provide opportunities, facilitate all of it in whatever way we can. So yeah, I would say start at teachertransition.com/quiz. If you want to follow me personally, we can connect on LinkedIn. Our company, Teacher Transition, is also on LinkedIn as well. But again, I would really advise do less of this like following and all of that and do more of build the skills, apply effectively. Yeah, log into your course and move forward, take the action.
I think those are all really great tips. And of course, those will all be linked below. So don't be like stressed writing these like URLs down and things. So I'll all be linked in the show notes below. Ali, this was an absolute pleasure having you on. It's been a long time coming. So I'm really happy that you finally came on and shared your expertise with us.
So glad. Thanks for your patience in me coming on. I mentioned to you a while ago, there's been so much tech work, right? We were in one LMS with all of our courses and resources, and we could see we're going to serve our people better by being in this other platform. That's been a major labor of love, the work and resources of helping businesses that want to hire teachers. Like it's all a labor of love. There's a lot of moving parts with it, but we're happy to do it. And thanks, for letting me come on and being
no problem.
Getting it scheduled. You're awesome.
Yeah, it's been really great. And we will share all of that. We can feel your passion throughout this episode. So it's been an absolute pleasure. And everyone, we will see you guys next time. Thank you. Bye.
Great. Thanks, Leena. So good.
Thank you so much. You've made it this far. We are so thankful that you're here. Make sure to hit the subscribe button, thumbs up, comment below, and join us for all of our next videos. Thank you so much for joining us as we disrupt education together. See you guys soon. Bye, everybody.